Ancient human civilization was far older and far more advanced than we were ever taught in school. In fact, we were so advanced that whoever built the Great Pyramid of Giza somehow knew precisely just how big planet Earth was, to such a precise degree of accuracy that we were not able to achieve until 1972 following satellite measurements and mapping. And if you don't believe me, I have the data to prove it, and I'll share that with you in just a moment. Now, if you've seen my other videos on ancient human civilization or the pyramids, I've discussed interesting facts, such as that the Great Pyramid of Giza just so happens to be located at the exact geographical center of all landmass of planet Earth. But I mean, do you think that that's a coincidence? I mean, what are the odds of that? That the biggest and most mysterious structure in the history of mankind just so happens to be located in the one spot on planet Earth that is unique and of itself. I also discussed the fact that the Great Pyramid of Giza has 8 sides, not 4. Most people are not aware of this. It's very subtle, and it's only apparent at dusk and dawn on the spring and autumn equinoxes. I also discussed the fact that the pyramids lack soot residue from candles and torches. I mean, how were they able to illuminate these structures while they were being built or afterwards? I even used the example of the Sistine Chapel, which was built thousands of years after the pyramids of Egypt, yet years and years of restoration was required to remove centuries of soot residue from candles and torches. So why on earth did the Sistine Chapel require candlelight, yet the pyramids didn't? I mean, I even used the example and take the picture on the right that it's in Egypt that some people say depicts a light bulb or some sort of technical device involving electricity. I mean, you can see the snake, and it connects to the lotus flower, which also connects seemingly to a cord that goes to a box. I mean, what is this? I also discussed the incredible shaft and tunnel system located throughout the Giza Plateau. There are dozens of shafts that plummet over 100 feet down, and they're dug into solid limestone bedrock. And these photos don't even include the horizontal shafts and tunnels that go into the Giza Plateau, which is a great mystery. I mean, what were these used for? Now, in my videos, one of the things I like to discuss is the fact that ancient humans seemingly had some sort of advanced technology to be able to cut the stone and lift them. However, many people disagree with this, and they cite awesome examples on how primitive methods can absolutely be utilized to cut and lift stones. For example, you have string saws as well as bronze saws that can be utilized with sand and water to cut through granite, basalt, and even quartzite. So no, you do not need advanced machinery or any type of cutting systems to cut through these hard stones. But there's a massive issue with this theory, which is the fact that it takes so unbelievably long to cut through even just one stone. In fact, it's pretty interesting that most of the demonstrations that you can find videos of don't even show the completion of these stones. They cut a few inches into it and give up just to prove to you that yes, it's possible to cut through these stones. But explain to me how string saws or bronze saws can cut the unbelievably unique curvatures of many of these stones found throughout Egypt. Or how these methods could possibly cut 90-degree angles, where in modern times, stonemasons need diamond bit drills and routers to do any of these angles that you're seeing here. I mean, even take for example the 100-ton stone boxes found at the Serapeum in Egypt. These boxes are more than 10 feet tall, 15 feet long, and weigh a combined total of 100 tons apiece. 30 tons for the solid lid, and 70 tons for the box. But what makes it even more interesting is that they're machine cut somehow to a level of accuracy to within 2/10,000ths of an inch. I mean, how could string saws or bronze saws that utilize sand cut something so massive? I mean, that's one thing. These boxes are humongous. Or the fact that they're so unbelievably level. I mean, can you demonstrate a string saw doing something to this level of accuracy, 2/10,000ths of an inch? But that brings me to another question involving the logistics. I mean, how can these primitive methods been utilized to do tens of millions of stone blocks found throughout pyramids, structures, and statues throughout ancient Egypt? I mean, there are at least 80 pyramids known to exist within Egypt alone. Most people aren't aware of that. They, of course, are familiar with the 3 largest and most popular, which are the Pyramids of Giza. But there are others being found all the time. I mean, even in March of this year, they found an entirely new pyramid buried in ruins underneath the sands of Egypt. Or even the Abu Rawash pyramid, which appears to be exploded and charred and is just completely mysterious on what the heck happened to that pyramid. But I mean, what on earth happened to any pyramid for them to be in ruins? Why are they finding destroyed pyramids underneath the sands of Egypt? What on earth would it take to destroy a pyramid? But when you take into account that the Great Pyramid of Giza in itself has 2.3 million stone blocks, shouldn't we be finding thousands of discarded, worn out bronze saws throughout Egypt, yet we've only found, what, a few, several, if that? So these primitive methods don't stack up. Yes, it's possible to cut through these stones with these primitive methods, but it doesn't compute. If we're being told that ancient human civilization and the first pyramids were built approximately 4,200 years ago, if every single person alive at that time was working on this, they would still be working to complete all of these tens of millions of stone blocks found throughout Egypt, and they're still finding new ones all the time. Now let me touch on the issue of lifting these stones. Now I have seen other primitive methods which are incredible, by the way. Take for example Wally from Michigan. You can see this video where he lifts a 20-ton stone block all by himself. It's incredible. But explain to me, and let me cite the example of the massive 1,000-ton stones of Baalbek in Lebanon, located near the Temple of Jupiter. I mean, how on earth did they move a 1,000-ton stone block over a half-mile uphill? How on earth did they do that? And not to mention the 3 blocks that they lifted up over 30 feet up and placed on top of other stones. I mean, yeah, sure, people can lift individual stones, but how do you drag a 1,000-ton stone uphill? I mean, that really raises some serious questions. But let me go back to Egypt and use the example of the Assyrian. I mean, you have 60 to 70-ton stone blocks apiece that are more than 10 feet tall. I mean, these pictures do not do it justice, because if you had a person standing next to them, you'd see just how massive these stone blocks are. How in the world did they lift these stone blocks on top of these other ones? Not to mention, how did they cut and carve these stone blocks? Do you really think that something so big was done with a bronze saw or string saws? I mean, honestly, it doesn't. How long would it take to do just one stone block? Never mind lifting it. But let me keep going. Just the incredible knowledge, the mathematical formulas and equations that are necessary to build a pyramid is unbelievable. I mean, pyramids of themselves are kind of like a puzzle in that they have tunnel systems, air shafts, and chambers within them. So it's one big massive puzzle. Now let me get back to my original point from the opening in this video, which is that whoever built these pyramids and designed them somehow knew precisely the exact measurements of planet Earth. And the Great Pyramid of Giza is an exact replica based on ratio to the Northern Hemisphere, down to a ratio of 43,200. Now keep that number 432 in mind as we get going. Now I'm citing the works of Randall Carlson from his video series that you can find on YouTube, which is Cosmic Patterns and Cycles of Catastrophe. You have to check this out. I'm only going to touch on it briefly, and I'm about to leave out so many more important aspects and information that will completely sell you on what I'm trying to explain here. But he takes measurements done through several sources of the pyramid alone. And he even takes into account that the fact that the Great Pyramid of Giza had 144,000 casing stones on it before it was destroyed somehow or taken apart. But then he takes measurements of the planet Earth dating back from the 1830s till today. And somehow, these measurements of planet Earth, take for example 1972 with satellite mapping and measurements conducted, all equate to a ratio of 43,200 to 1. Let me give you a little bit more information so you can see how this all fits together. So you have the sun, which has a diameter of 864,000 or a radius of 432,000. And then you have the moon, which is a diameter of 2,160 or the radius being 1,080. But if you were to divide the average distance of the sun from the Earth, about 93 million miles, by the diameter of the sun, 864,000, it would equal 108. Just as if you were to take the average distance of the moon to the Earth, which is, approximately 233,000, divide that by its diameter, you also equal 108. Now take that number 108, which is seen throughout ancient human civilization. I mean, just one example would be the 108 towers found in Cambodia. And you'll also find the number 108 found throughout the Hindu religion and other sources as well. Now I mentioned that the Pyramid of Giza had 144,000 casing stones. Well, 144,000 minutes exist in one day, 86,400 seconds exist in a day, and in a half day you have 43,200 seconds in a day. Now take those numbers, 144, or the 864, which is just one decimal short of being the diameter of the sun. But let's look at the 43,200 seconds in a half day. Throughout ancient human civilization, there's a huge focus on as above, so below. Well, if you take the octahedron, which is essentially two pyramids stacked on top of each other with the pointy ends going opposite direction, the angles combined equal 1,440. Think about that. There's 1,440 minutes in a day. So if you take the octahedron, you have 1,440 degrees of angle. Now, one of the things I didn't mention earlier is the fact that the Great Pyramid of Giza, in this ratio of 43,200 that I'm referring to, even takes into account the fact that the Earth is wider around the equator than it is around the poles. And when you have the Great Pyramid of Giza essentially equating to a ratio of 43,200, well, again, 43,200 is how many seconds there are in a half day. So half the Earth, and it just so happens that the exact measurements create a perfect ratio of 43,200. Is this really just a coincidence? I mean, the number 432 is found through numerous other sources of ancient human civilization, whether it be in Hindu texts, whether it's the Arga Veda, or even the pre-Diluvian Sumerian king gods equal a total years of 432,000, or even the Kali Yuga, 432,000, or the Mahu Yugas, which equals 4,320,000. There's that number 432, which, by the way, is incredibly close to the estimated age of the Earth being approximately 4.5 billion years. And look at the number 432 used in modern times. I mean, if you look in the back of the $1 bill, which for some reason, of course, has this pyramid, well, it has 13 levels of pyramid block stacks on it. Well, if you times that by 33.3, which is a favorite number of Masons, that just so happens to equal 432. We also find the number 432 in harmonic frequencies, dating back all the way to the Sumerians. Anyways, guys, I gotta close this up because it's getting long, but take into account everything that I've covered here, whether it be the location of the pyramid, or the fact this number 432 just ties into everything from our clock to various sources throughout ancient human civilization. You have to start asking some real serious questions here. I, for one, absolutely do not believe that this is within the realm of a coincidence. In fact, it's evidence that there was an advanced ancient human civilization that dates back before the last cataclysm, which, of course, I have several videos on already. Anyways, guys, I'm Jimmy. This is Bright Insight. Like and subscribe and leave me a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. And I have many videos to come on a whole wide variety of topics. Take care, everybody.